That was painful to watch. Honestly, I feel awful after that game. Feels like another false dawn. It seemed like maybe Liverpool were finally getting their season on track. This could have been their fourth win in a row today, including the win in the Champions League against Rangers. Following a excellent 1-0 victory over Man City at Anfield, their first defeat of the season. Followed it up with a decent win against West Ham a few days later. It wasn't perfect, rode our luck a little bit, but got the job done. And I really, really did feel like we could win this game today. Even when I heard that Nunez was going to be out. Even when Thiago was going to be out. I thought we'd have enough. Because, look, credit to Forest. They worked extremely hard. And credit to the fans. I mean, they were celebrating every single challenge like that was a cup final. Atmosphere is fantastic. So credit to them for that. But let's be honest. Forest, they're not very good. They look like a championship side. They're rooted to the bottom of the table. They'd conceded 23 goals, over 2 per game already. And I felt like if we were ever going to be missing players against a team, and if we were ever going to have to play 3 games in 6 days, like this game would be at the end of that stretch, Forest was the team to play. I felt like we could still, despite all that, we should still be able to beat Nottingham Forest. But I was wrong. Couldn't do it. First half, I mean, the way the team started, first 15 minutes, I really didn't like it. There were so many sloppy passes. Not just sloppy, just passes going straight to the opposition. And a lot of players were guilty of it, to be honest with you. The only silver lining was that Forest weren't very good. And they kept giving the ball back to us. We kept winning it back early. We were able to push up the pitch higher than we have it in previous games because they couldn't retain the ball very well. They were trying to play at 100 miles an hour, forced a lot of passes, kept turning it over back to us. And all we really needed in that first half to go ahead was to show a little bit of quality. Not even a lot. Just Premier League quality. Not top 4 quality. Not Championship Challenger quality. Just Premier League quality. We would have been ahead in that first half. But we couldn't do it. We didn't have it in us. That was really disappointing. Possession-wise, we dominated the game. We had 75%. We had 15 shots. The problem really was that front 4, or the 2 wide players and the front 2. It was up to them to unlock the defence in open play. It was up to them to create chances, to score a goal, to get an assist. And they couldn't do it. And there's been praise for Liverpool's 2 young players, Carvalho and Elliott, this season. But we got to be honest as well. There's a difference between being good enough to play in a Premier League side and not look out of place. That's one thing. But it's another thing when you're trying to play for the top 4. You're trying to play for a title, which I know we're not this season. But if that's the case, you can't just be good enough to not be shown up. You have to actually be able to make the difference. To be a difference maker in a game. Whether that's with a goal, whether that's with an assist, whether that's consistently getting into space, making things happen, being the pass before the pass. You have to show you are superior to particularly bottom half Premier League sides. If you're on the wing, can you consistently beat your man? Can you win your one-on-one duels? Can you show that you're a step up? And I think Harvey Elliott's done a lot better than Carvalho this season. But I don't think either of those 2 players have proven, they haven't been able to directly contribute to goals or assists enough to warrant playing nearly as much as they have. Particularly Carvalho. Look, I know he's got 2 goals this season and he's had some nice bits of play and he looks tidy and he has good technique. But right now, to me, he's just not good enough. He's been starting quite a few games recently, usually gets hooked at half-time or after an hour. In the first half, dominating the ball, he had 9 passes. Liverpool as a whole nearly had 400 in that first half. He seems to want a little bit too much time in the ball. He's clearly got talent. Absolutely. He can spin well. He's got a great touch. Dwells a bit too much in the ball. Can't make that decisive pass in a decisive moment. I know he's only 20 and he might become a very good player, but he just doesn't seem ready for this level at this point. He gets marked out of games much too easily. He's very slight. He's not particularly quick. And players just playing really physically. They're just pushing into him. They're bumping him. They're trying to foul him. And he finds it really difficult to get in the game. And we can't have someone in one of those forward positions who just isn't really contributing. We're not good enough to have a passenger there. Elliott gets much more involved in general play. He has much more touches. He has much more passes. And he plays some really clever balls. I do think he's a mature player for his age. But again, he doesn't have that pace on the wing to get past his man. So he ends up cutting inside the whole time. He's capable of a nice pass, but I don't think he consistently does it well enough to really warrant being a regular starter. And I don't blame him for that. He's only 19. It's very difficult to hammer home a place in the starting lineup for a team with the aspirations at Liverpool at 19. So I don't blame him for that. I just don't think he should be playing as much as he is. And that's not a fault on him. That's a limitation of the squad. Maybe if he had more speedy players around him where he can use his passing to play people into space, then it would be more likely that he'd warrant his spot. But I'm just not seeing it. He's got maybe 2 goals this season. I'm not even sure if he's got any assists. And he's been involved in pretty much every single game. And I do think he'll probably go on to be a really good player. But again, in the here and now, we need players who are delivering on a game-by-game basis to make the difference. Firmino, look, he's been good this season. Couldn't really get in the game, make a difference. He should have scored. He had a great chance with a header in the first half in particular. Salah, poor game, to be honest. He played up front, and what happened to him today is what we saw happen to him in previous seasons where he played up front. He was fantastic against City, but part of the reason for that is because they're pushing up so high in the pitch and he's got space to run in behind and he can take players on a one-on-one and he's got room to run into. But against a deep-lying defence, if he plays up front, he just gets in wrestling matches the whole time. He's got at least one or two tall, strong defenders just fouling him, running into the back of him. He's got his back to goal the entire game. He just can't influence things. Had a few half chances as well. Did not make the most of them. He looked pretty average, to be honest. Second half, there was one point where a free kick came in. He got round the back. Acres of space. Time. It's on his left foot. He tried to side foot it. Not even hit it with his laces. He tried to side foot the ball. Missed it completely. Where is that quality? That's what we needed, particularly first half. Someone had to show some kind of quality, and we couldn't do it. The disappointing thing then is that Forest got their goal against the run of play. They didn't have much of the ball, but they scored after 55 minutes. Plenty of time to get back in the game. But we didn't really look like doing it. We had good chances from set plays. Van Dijk in particular, how he didn't score, I do not know. Multiple headers in the 6-yard box. One in the first half, he was about 4 yards from goal. He tried to play it back across goal to Firmino when the goal was right there in front of him. How he didn't shoot, I'm not sure. And in injury time in the game, he had a free header from 6 yards out, centre of the goal. Hit the target this time, but Henderson saved it. Again, though, these are incredible chances. But that's where most of our chances came from. Set plays. We didn't seem capable of creating chances in open play. We had 15 shots in the game in total. From an expected goals perspective, Forest had a higher XG, if you can believe it. They had 2.5, Liverpool had about 2.2. Which again, shows you that, the numbers say a draw was probably a fair result. We definitely should have scored. Most of those chances we conceded against them were when we were chasing the game. But we should have never had to do that. And even when we were, it was common trend this season, but too easy for the opposition to generate high quality chances. And I mean, that's so worrying. The bottom of the table team has a higher XG against Liverpool. The team who are allowing over 2 goals per game. It's really, really concerning. I thought our best player and the brightest spark for me was Curtis Jones in this game. It was great to see him back. He actually played in the double pivot with Fabinho, so a position he's probably never played. But I thought he was excellent. First half in particular, at the beginning of the game, Forrest tried to press us high, but his composure on the ball in the centre of the park, he's so relaxed in there. He can spin away from his man. He made good passes. He kept us ticking over. I thought he had a really, really strong game. He actually reminded me a bit of someone like a Bernardo Silva playing in the double pivot for City, in a game where City are going to be pressed, and you need someone press resistant to continuously be able to beat their man, make space, and get the team moving forward. And I thought Curtis Jones did that extremely well. And by the way, that was needed with Thiago not being there. Because sometimes when we're pressured a lot in midfield and it's Henderson, Milner, Fabinho, we don't have that consistent build-up play from the centre of the park. And I thought Curtis Jones provided that. He played very, very well. And then the other concerning thing is that we're there chasing a goal and we put on Henderson and Trent. And don't get me wrong, Trent made a difference going forward, but he's a right back. We had nothing to change the forward line, nothing to change the wings. 15 minutes to go, Firmino comes off for Ox. I mean, I think that's the first time he's on the pitch, I believe, this season. Didn't do anything. I wasn't too surprised about that. It's very concerning. And right now we've got 3 of our 5 forwards out. Nunes out. Diaz is going to be out for months. Jota is going to be out for months. Jota's proving to be, he was just starting to hit some form, but he's proving to be a really injury-prone player. He must have had 5 or 6 serious injuries since he's come to the club. He'd only just come back for a few weeks. He's out again. And this is a problem. For years, we got away with the front 3 because Mane and Salah were bulletproof. They never seemed to get injured. I don't think Mane ever picked up an injury where he was out for more than 3 or 4 weeks in 5 years at the club. Firmino, first few seasons, never got injured. But now, I think we are buying some good players, but their injury record is not good. Van Dijk's, 31 now? He's needing to play every game centre-back. Konate's starting to pick up injuries. Matip is obviously very injury-prone. Just when it seemed like some of our midfielders were coming back, apparently Kate is going to be back in full training next week. We've got Curtis Jones back. Yeah, Henderson's back. Thiago's back. But now our forwards are starting to drop like flies. There was a moment in the first half, Salah got pushed in the back, in the box. It looked innocuous. And he went down and stayed down. And honestly, I was really nervous about if Salah got injured as well and we were left with just Firmino and then Elliott and Carvalho trying to supply him. I mean, we would be in trouble. Fortunately, he got back up and finished off the game. But the injuries are a big concern. And I heard somebody say recently, I'm not sure if it's still the case, but Liverpool lost their doctor in the summer. And for the first few months anyway, he hadn't been replaced. Is this why we're getting so many players injured? Missing a medical doctor? If it's the case, I hope somebody's in at this point. Because it's becoming a really serious problem. Too many players are getting injured. What has to happen? I mean, honestly, the club better be ready to get the checkbook out in January, to be honest. Midfield needs strengthening. I don't know if we need something on the wings, maybe. With Diaz and Jota missing, we just lack that penetration, that pace on the flanks. Especially if it's going to be a 4-4-2. We need something. We need somebody to come in, hit the ground running and just spark this squad again. Like Diaz did for us last Christmas. I do feel like Klopp's been let down a little bit by the board. Maybe not a little bit. I do think he has been. He's got so much out of these players. And nearly every signing we've had has been a success. But it's an aging team. It's an injury-prone team. And we've got these young players being expected to pick up the weight and make the difference in games, and it's just not happening. Our performances are not reflecting a dominant side. I still think we can do more with what we have. And I still think, of course, Klopp is the man. He can, of course, turn it around, change things, get a few players in and rebuild another side. But I'm starting to think we need 3 or 4 players to really mold this team again into the next title-winning challenge. Extremely disappointing result today. Ajax on Wednesday. Should have Nunes back. Probably have a couple other players back. Let's try to get our Champions League qualification wrapped up and just pick up as many wins as possible before the World Cup starts. And then hopefully we can try to jumpstart this season again, because it's looking really, really poor. What were your thoughts today? What do you think is going wrong with Liverpool this season? I'll see you in the next video.